month ago, he bought the movie rights to this book, a bestseller. And the main character is a guy just like me. Why, I wouldn't even have to act, just be myself. Oh, Godfather, I don't know what to do.
You can act like a man! What's the matter with you? Is this how you turn out a Hollywood Pinocchio that cries like a woman? What can I do? What is that nonsense? Ridiculous.
What do you think having a 37-year-old?
We're on to Cincinnati. It's nothing about the past, nothing about the future. It's right now we're preparing for Cincinnati.
Okay, do you feel like the talent you have here is good enough?
We're getting ready for Cincinnati.
What is your responsibility?
I'm just asking, do you think you've done enough to help Tom Brady?
We're getting ready for Cincinnati.
-3 with Dave Damashek.
Hi, hello, sports fans. Welcome to -3. No, I'm not crying about the Steelers. I'm just a little hoarse from a fourth quarter block punt and a weird interception that led to the Steelers improbably coming back against the Chargers only to give it away on a broken coverage with 2 minutes. Hey, anyway, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Rugged start to Shecker season. I hope it's going to be a happy one. It usually is. This is the stretch of the year with more days off than there are days of school or work. And when you are at work, it's kind of okay to be drunk, and it's also okay to get fat right now. And there's a lot of sports on. Not that the games are necessarily going to be good, especially on Thanksgiving. Has there ever been a trio of Thanksgiving games in which every team playing on Thanksgiving just lost in the preceding week? That's what our eyeballs have waiting for us. Michigan and Ohio State is going to be juicy. The AFC's a mess. We'll give you some Week 12 picks for you, a couple college football picks, our thoughts on Taylor Swift. Oh, wait, we're going to skip that, I think. Let's just jump right to the sports talk then. With our pal all the way in Midtown, New York City, it's Kevin Hench sitting on top of the AFC mountain all of a sudden. Everybody loves Tom Brady Jr. Mac Jones is his name, I guess.
Shaq, first of all, this breathy Brenda Vaccaro impression you're doing is such an upgrade. Whatever it takes, I think for the listeners, this is your new sound. I don't know. You've managed to remove all of the grating, shrill annoyingness from your voice. It's beautiful.
Thank you. It's a Thanksgiving miracle, really.
No vocal rest. Keep it like this for the rest of the season.
So lay off this tea. My wife made me some potion, some Tennessee potion that she said, oh, these will slick your voice up real good. And all right, whatever. I'll lay off that then if this pleases you more. Yeah, our mutual pal, Matt Money Smith, voice of the Chargers, told me, I said, how did you get that voice? Well, just dealt a good hand by a higher power, and I got the other end of that stick. And he said 2 packs a day when I was growing up. That's what it was on the side.
Smart.
So maybe that's what I need to do. I'll start doing that.
Too late.
I don't know where we can bounce around the league here. I don't want to hold you up, Hench. I don't want to hold the listener up. It is Thanksgiving week. I want to say very quickly that we have a second episode in store for you on -3 and on Extra Points, just recorded with Cousin Sal and Marty Weiss reviewing Week 12 in the NFL. And also we have a Thanksgiving feast debate. A lot of all the important issues, sides. Apparently, Eddie Spaghetti says Bill Belichick weighed in that his favorite is anything starchy, which is a real deviation for him. He's usually so splashy with his choices. So we do what we do with Jen Piacenti.
We absolutely do want to hold the listener up. What is the idea? The idea is like we're informative and entertaining. Hey, man, don't want to hold you up. Hey, sorry to ruin your Thanksgiving with our podcast.
You're right.
What kind of intro is this? Hey, man, we're going to make it quick so you can get on with the better parts of your life. Come on.
And obviously they don't have anything to do. I just mentioned it's the Lions and the Bears.
Of the home stretch in the NFL, the college football picture coming into sharp relief. This is exciting.
Boy, oh boy! Now all of a sudden I feel like the Steelers in the midst of their rally. Not when they let the Chargers just grab the lead by not covering one of their wide receivers so he can run down the sideline.
It's funny because I've been looking at this Patriots 4-game stretch for a while. This month coming up, Titans, Bills, Colts, Bills, and knowing that they couldn't lose any of the games prior to this stretch because they're not going to run the table in those 4 games. But it's very interesting in the last few weeks how the complexion of those games has changed. First of all, a month ago, Derrick Henry goes down, and that Titans game immediately looks much more winnable, and even more winnable coming off the egg the Titans laid against the Texans. The Bills, I thought a month ago, I was like, well, we'll catch our breath with the Colts between the 2 Bills games. Now, of those 4 games, the Colts does look like the hardest game in a few short weeks. The Colts looks like the hardest of those 4 games. But I would say I'd be thrilled with 2-2 in the next month, which would leave the Patriots 9-6 with the Jaguars and Dolphins left to play. So I think if they can split the next 4, I think they're in.
And it really is hard. You can get over your skis about any team pretty much. The Raiders were the story in September. That feels like 8 months ago now. And it's funny because I'm listening to sports radio. I'm looking online, seeing the reaction to everything. And the big takeaway is, you mentioned Derrick Henry, not on the Titans and the big takeaway is, oh, I can't believe they lost to the Texans. Yeah, well, they don't have their best player now, and their second best player just kept throwing the ball to the other team. Yeah, but the Raiders kind of what we talk about all the time is, and I think it was John Harbaugh who had no one cares about your problems. I think basically he's the one who has perpetuated that more than anybody else, and it really is true. I mean, look at what the Raiders have been through on a human level, all the distractions. And if you listen to it, we are already at a place where that's barely even acknowledged. You're not like that. That is an excuse is meaningless to people. Like what's happened to the Raiders? They've lost 3 in a row here. Like wheels have come off. I literally heard somebody say on the radio today, like Who's the alpha in that locker room that's going to step up and stop this 3-game skid? I mean, Joe Mixon punched you in the mouth, which is an unfortunate turn of phrase where Joe Mixon is concerned. But, who's going to step up and who's the alpha and going to stop this skid? Like, do you know what's going on with that team?
Well, it's interesting because, obviously
injuries are everywhere. Baker Mayfield's hurt. Nobody cares. In Cleveland, they're booing him. Pittsburgh, like, what's going on with this? Yeah, dude, this defense stinks. I never seen such a stinker of a performance. It was like Cam Hayward and there was literally a guy wearing number 61. And I was like, who? I said to my boy, as if he would know, watch it. Who's 61? Who is that guy out on the field right now? I know every Steeler for the last 48 years. I have no idea who 61 is. Trying to tackle Justin Herbert.
No, you were spared because you were at the game. You were spared the instant analysis of Minkah Fitzpatrick doesn't let that happen. There were obvious plays that occurred as a result of the lesser player being on the field because the starter was not playing. But to the Raiders thing, a few weeks ago, my best bet was the Giants to beat the Raiders. And I said, when this collapse starts, it's going to be sustained. What they had done, post Gruden was incredible. To function. And then I said my next best bet the following week was the Chiefs against the Raiders, and I will be picking the Cowboys, laying that big number on Thanksgiving. But when you look at the 3 Super Bowls, Stanley Wilson, Eugene Robinson, and Barrett Robbins. Is that right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. You have to be such a well-oiled machine, right? Everybody's got to be on the same page. It's a football. You have to be so prepared. When they talk about we had a great week of practice. like no distractions. Everybody does their job. And then those Super Bowl Eve, hey guys, let's get out there. Little team news where this guy disappeared. This guy vanished. Like you're like, what? Yeah. Well,
hey, real quick question for anybody seen Barrett?
It's like, what? So, those teams go 0-3 in the Super Bowl with one guy going AWOL the night before the game. And when you look at what the Raiders have gone through, it's like, in football, the coach matters. This isn't like other sports. It makes absolutely no difference in baseball or basketball. You and I would finish with almost an identical record as all the well-compensated managers and coaches. Football's different. It's a big hit when your skipper is fired, is asked to leave. And then the subsequent turmoil, as we've talked about, it's beyond heartbreaking, tragic. He's your friend. He also is a good player. Like they also can't replace what that guy, did to the top of the defense. Anyway, so yeah, if you're asking what happened to the Raiders, you're not a big news hound, I guess.
Well, the Cowboys, now the big takeaway is from, I guess, the signature matchup of week 11 is Chiefs are back. And if you blur your eyes, I guess you could say, like, yeah, look at what they've done the last few weeks and everything. But one, I'm not sold that the Chiefs are in a great spot. Maybe they wind up going to the Super Bowl, but it ain't because Patrick Mahomes has turned the corner and is back to being the best in the world. The defense somehow is doing it, but talking about excuses that you're allowed to make, but nobody cares about is they didn't have the best left tackle in football in Tyron Smith and Havin for the last. Zeke Elliott goes down. Then they already have one of their best two pass catchers out with COVID. Then the other one goes out. And it's kind of like, what's going on with the Cowboys, man? That's what's going on with them. They didn't have most of their good players. Like, Dave, I'm getting a lot of, during the game, sitting there in SoFi, like, Dave, as though I have some answer because I'm on the scene. Dave, what's going on with the defense, James? It does matter, as I say all the time. They wear the helmet with the one logo on the side of it. Well, actually, it's on the right side. It does matter who is actually inside that helmet, as it turns out. Just because you put the jersey on with a 61 or otherwise doesn't mean he equals the production of Minkah Fitzpatrick or T.J. Watt or Joe Hayden or anyone else. Yeah. What happened? Dave, what happened? That's what happened.
Yeah. By the way, thank God it matters. It would be pretty boring to root for our teams if it made no difference once you put the uniform on. You were just as good as TJ Watt. Well, that would suck.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's I've said this a million times. I'll say it for the million and first. In The Incredibles, the kid who grows up to be the bad guy says, once everyone's super, no one is. That's right. It does matter that you have super people, or it's unsatisfying to watch on some level. Yes.
So first of all, being on the East Coast for Thanksgiving, when I just get a taste of East Coast sports viewing time, I'm ready to go to bed. Oh, the puck hasn't dropped yet. Like, it's so insane how late shit starts in New York. And of course, last night I'm watching Monday Night Football as I did growing up, where I'm like, oh yeah. They did move it up. It is earlier than when Sheck and I were kids, the 9:07 kickoff. But I knew you were at the game. Spaghetti said, I hope the Steelers win. It'd be great if the Steelers and Patriots were both in the playoffs for the show. And then it became so clear to me that the Chargers were not going to punt all night. Like, it was like, there's no way this defense is ever getting off the field. And then Herbert just misses a wide open Keenan Allen on first down. I mean, he's running wide open, and it's like, ooh, it's 2nd and 10. We could see the punter. The punter could make an appearance. Now, I believe, was that the punter's only interaction with the game of the night?
That was the one.
What a line. What a line. Hey, how'd you do? Hey, honey, welcome home. How'd you do? Well, I only had to punt the one time. Oh, did you Did you pin him at the 2-yard line? Ball did end up at the 2. The ball did end up at the 2 the one time I went on R2. The ball ended up at R1. By the way, was that the sequence? I mean, I know you've had a lot of fun with Canada. You can't. Everyone goes, well, if you throw a pass and it's incomplete, you should have run. And if you run into the line, you've got to be more creative. Like at this point, he's called all 15 plays that he has inside the 3-yard line. They've failed on all of them. But that was the sequence, right, where they needed the 4th down pass interference call.
Yeah, but before that, early in the game, when it was 7-3 Chargers, they have the ball down at the goal line. 7 under throws the ball in what should have been a touchdown. But by the way, let's not diminish the idea. Whatever else you want to say about this Pittsburgh Steelers team, I don't think you can really hang it on Roethlisberger. He's not a top 5 quarterback, but plenty good against the Chargers. And I do think the Chargers still are my pick to go to the Super Bowl, because if you kind of break down what it takes to get there, all the myth about you have to have this and you can't do this, and I think the Chargers have most of those pieces.
Well, let me ask you this about
they can heat you up with Bosa and company. They got nice back end pieces.
But the defense is still problematic. And watching Bosa, I was having this thought. I'm watching him and I'm like, okay, so you're going to jump off sides 3 times a game. You're good for a roughing penalty he's like a husband who's like, he's a good provider. He makes $500,000 a year. He's a good provider. He's got a $700,000 a year drug habit. Like, well, no, wait a minute. That's like I'm looking at the plays he makes, but I'm like, yeah, but it's 3rd and 3 and he just jumped off sides. Like, I'm like, he's like, it's weird because obviously you want those guys to be rabid dogs on the edge, but someone has to fucking calm him down a little bit. If the center picks his head up, he's 5 yards into the backfield, and I know he's the stud of studs on that defense, but geez, I mean, you're up 17 in the 4th quarter and the Steelers just going up and down the field on you. I don't know.
I do think, though, listen, first of all, it would have been, and really, as you fellas know, I'm a great empath. Hello, Eddie Spaghetti there behind the glass, by the way. And happy Thanksgiving to you and yours and the Pasta Clan. Sports, maybe it's the holidays that has me waxing about it, but it really was to me to take my boy. We went to the game 2 years ago in Los Angeles when they were playing in the soccer stadium and saw Duck Hodges win the game. But it was something to say to him. I know it's not seeing Cal Ripken's streak as I went to see when I was in Chicago, made a point of going to Comiskey just to say I saw one of Cal Ripken's games during the streak and all that. But kind of like Bruno Kirby in City Slickers waxing about his poor relationship with his old man, or Kevin Costner about his in Field of Dreams. Sports, I really can get James Earl Jones about it, about, that's what it does. It connects you. If nothing else, practically, it makes for a breezy conversation with people you have.
Oh my God.
Forget about your old man. It's anybody, like you're at a party like, oh, I don't want to be here. I don't know these people. These are my wife's people. Like, oh, you're a football fan. Oh, okay.
No, I mean, obviously I don't know how, the non-sports fan moves through life. I have no idea. What do you talk to people about? Well, how does this work? My little one and I got back from FAO Schwartz, and the cleaning crew was here in the hotel room, and I'm working on my Spanish, and so I always ask if the person speaks Spanish, and then if they do, I get to practice a little bit, and then this woman said she said, oh no, I'm Egyptian, and I go, do you root for Liverpool? She goes, of course. And I'm like, and we just start talking about Mohamed Salah, this incredible player for Liverpool. And he's like, he plays with this incredibly generous spirit, and he's like very giving to the community. And it was like this instantaneous connection. But like, she lit up when I said, do you root for Liverpool? She lit up because she was like, all this guy knows about me is I'm Egyptian, and he knows I root for Liverpool because the king of the Egyptians plays for Liverpool. And so we just had a nice conversation about a good human being who plays soccer for her team. I don't know. I mean, I guess the rest of the world just has a lot of grunting and stony face silences. But let me ask you this, because you tweeted out the picture with the boy. Okay. Would you have rathered, and maybe it's different for the two of you, or maybe you feel the same way. Would you have rathered down 17 in the fourth, just lose by 20? Just lose by 20. Or what actually happened, which is, oh my God. I mean, they picked up the flag, and it was the right thing to do to pick up the flag when Roethlisberger threw the ball 15 yards short. But if that is PI, they can run it almost, right? If they,
that's right. That's exactly
that game is kind of over. So there's a moment where that yellow's on the field, and you're like, we're going to win this game. Like now we're moving into 96% win probability. So then you get the stomach punch of no one covers Mike Williams. Which would you have rathered?
I'll take the rally because of the circumstances that I describe. As we're going to the game, I say, this is my last chance. 18 years is really pretty close to almost half of my, time spent following sports. Number 7 in black and gold has been the quarterback, and so I'm explaining the meaning of that and his greatness. And I'm telling Jean-Claude Van Damme about him. He's like, he's going to the Hall of Fame. And I said, oh yeah, he's definitely going to the Hall of Fame. And I want you to see him, and you'll be 25 years from now, he'll go into the Hall of Fame and whatever, it's a point of connection. And by the way, I do put on social media a picture of me and my boy. And I say, this is, for better, we're 18 years. Maybe it makes me a slight human being that the role that sports plays in family and otherwise. It's a point of connection, as we say. And it really is darkness in social media. If you float that out, the hilarious quips that you get from people about Ben Roethlisberger as I'm connecting it with my son and everything else. Terrific people. Good for you. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I'm sure you're proud of yourself.
It's
be proud. And by the way, hey, your team has a guy that I don't love. That applies to every team in every sport that you could possibly point out. Football. So settle down with your.
I put a picture.
How dare you like him? Kind of talk.
I put a picture of me and my child on social media. Let me guess, it went great.
It went great. Thank you. That's the
people are delightful. People are terrific.
But to answer your question, we're in the Charger Stadium, and the Chargers are rolling, and they're up 17 points.
At least you didn't get stuck in that tiny Charger section.
Exactly. When the Steelers begin their rally and the place comes alive, 2,500 miles away from the banks of the Three Rivers, to be able to elbow him and say, this is fun. Do you see how this travels? And I get it. Those are the misconception that all those people jumped on a plane from Pittsburgh and flew out for the weekend. It's a brand. People vibe to success, and there were lots of Patriots fans at this point. There are a lot of Yankees fans around the world and Duke fans and otherwise. And the Steelers are, I think, a relatively likable brand. And so it's traveled out to Southern California, and there are a lot of people with terrible towels who I listen to their conversations, and I'm cynical about what they think. They have no idea who anybody is on the team. And instead of, here we go, Steelers, there's a lot of, let's go Steelers. Well, that's a tell. That's a tell to a dyed-in-the-wool actual Steeler fan. But all right, listen, wave your towel, have your fun.
Well, we're listening to Staley in the postgame. It definitely sounded, and I don't know, it's always hard on the TV to tell exactly how loud it is, how one-sided it is, but you could tell from Staley that it was the worst it had ever been. He was talking about trying to deal with the crowd at home. You're at home.
I mean, that's fun.
Hey, it's a home game, but we were able to overcome the crowd. Like, it was just insane. All right, so
you talk about a drug, but you talk about like a drug addict and all that. Like, I am a dealer. I'm trying to get him hooked on the stuff. And so I am thinking about, if they somehow steal this game, what are they really maybe going to win this game?
That would have been just an unbelievable win. That would have been, the Oilers playing without Campbell and Renfro, or Campbell and
Ken Burrow and Dan Pastorini. Right. But yeah, that's how it felt like. I felt like, if they win this one, the hooks will be too deep for him to ever get them out, and he will be a Steelers fan for the rest of his life, no matter what the Rams and or Chargers do. But in the meantime, Chargers will turn.
Okay, well, this will be a good transition. I see you got your Tim Biakopatuka SIG underneath you there, which must mean you're picking Michigan. But let's get to that momentarily.
I want to do that, but I have one thing I want to ask you about. Takeaway from week 11. The Browns survived the Lions. The Ravens. I mean, I don't think. I should look this up. Anecdotally, in my heart, teams that are the cardiac team of the year don't win the Super Bowl. I don't think, but maybe I can look that up and somebody can disrupt. Yeah, they win by 2 points every week in miraculous fashion.
They're down two scores in the fourth every week. That's not a good team. That's not a good team.
That Ravens, doesn't work long term.
It's so crazy that the Ravens, like the way the schedule works, like the week they beat the Lions, that's the only team in the NFL they could have beaten. Like, they were atrocious and needed help from the gods and the referees. And then, they're definitely, they're gonna lose to the Bears, and the good Lord intervenes again. They're down 16 in the fourth to the Colts. They need 2 TDs and 2 2-point conversions just to force overtime. They're down double figures to the Chiefs when Mahomes just throws the ball to them in the fourth quarter. Like, all those games, Vikings, they're down 14, Chiefs, they're down 10, Colts, they're down 16. I mean, it is not a stretch that their record could be inverted easily.
Of course, this is true. And of course, you can play this game forever. And you left out the biggest play of that Ravens-Colts game is Calais Campbell somehow blocking a field goal that would have iced it for the Colts. And then we'd be talking about the Colts. People are already talking about Patriots or Colts are the two best teams in the AFC. They would definitely be, the Colts would be regarded as such with that win. And the Ravens would just be in the mix. But by the way, here's a little bit of optimism for anyone on the outside looking in, or it's not looking great. Specifically, Browns and Steelers fans, we are one and the same. It is time to pull together, because Steelers, you need the Browns to catch fire now. And Browns fans, you need the same. You want the Steelers to beat the Bengals this weekend, and you want to the matchups. I tweeted it out last week. I'll tweet it out again, but look at the schedules of all 4 AFC North teams that's upcoming and tell me which game the AFC North team out of division is going to be favored to win. There's an at Broncos game for Cincy. I mean, it's terrifying. The bottom line is AFC North, I think, gets one team into the playoffs, and that's who wins the division, because the Colts are going to make it and the Titans are going to make it. Patriots and Bills are going to make it. And now Chiefs and Chargers are going to make it. So that doesn't leave any room. So you win the division, and it's improbable. But if the Steelers go to Cincy and win and then beat Baltimore at home over the next 2 games, things will look awfully rosy. I'm not predicting that to happen, but if you're throwing dirt on them, do that at your own risk. In the meantime, the Browns are right in it. And that brings me to this question.
Okay.
The Raiders, 5-5, it's grim. Browns, it's a mess because of the QB. And as I said last week, and I'll say again now, if they would have just said 2 weeks ago, Case Keenum, sorry, Bake, you're too messed up. Case, we're going with you the rest of the way, they would win the division. They still might win the division, but if they would have done that, but this ego and like, well, he's our franchise guy and we probably have to sign him, but now it's getting sideways and all of that. Is Baker Mayfield and or Derek Carr a backup in 2022? think about the lay of the land. Aaron Rodgers might move. Russell Wilson might move. All these youngsters coming up from college. Do you think one of those two guys or both? Because Bake, like if the Browns don't re-sign him, where's he going to be a starter next year? Houston?
Well, I would put those guys in two very different categories. I think Derek Carr is the only reason that team is competitive. Like I think he's throwing into small windows and so I think he's definitely definitely a top 32 quarterback, but probably a top 15 quarterback. The other guy, he's not good. He's just not good enough to be a starter. Every team needs a starting quarterback. So at the beginning of every year, there are non-contenders. The Lions said we're going to run Jared Goff out there, but Mayfield. It's funny watching that game against the Patriots. When the Patriots began their, you understand the Patriots have scored 70 consecutive points, right? How often does that happen in the NFL? 70 consecutive points. They ran a 45 against the Browns and 25 against the Falcons. But when Mayfield threw his interception to Duggar, it was one of those where you're like, well, I guess I can kind of understand the interception that Rosen threw, and he just obviously didn't see Van Noy, but like he's throwing pretty far away. Like you have a lot. You should see the whole horizon if you're throwing it that far to the sideline. And it was one of those throws where it's like, oh, if he didn't pick it, the other Patriot would have picked it. There's nothing there. There's nothing. There's nothing to see that would make you go throw it. And I feel like Baker does that too often. And it's not like he makes up for it with these other incredible plays where you got to live with the bad decision because he does all these other things. So, well, look, we said it when Keenum beat the Broncos a few weeks ago. We were like, well, they've got a slight upgrade at quarterback, so they've got a chance of winning this game. And he played, he's very solid, no mistakes. And then when Mayfield went out of the Patriots game, I was like, well, they're getting a slight upgrade at quarterback with Case Keenum. So that's the answer. That's the answer to your starter backup question. If Case Keenum, perpetual backup, is better than you, then yes, you're a backup. You're a backup. And the other thing I would say about Baker, and like whatever, it's a hard job, is he so wants to be a leader, right? He wants to be perceived as a leader. He wants to do all the right things. He wants to exhort his charges. He wants to say the right things after the game, take responsibility. And he really does all that stuff quite well. The problem is when you suck, everyone tunes you out. Everyone goes, I don't care. I don't care that you say all the right things after a loss. I don't care that you're bucking me up on the sideline if I drop a ball. You're not good enough to lead us to the promised land, so we have to find someone who is. That's the business. And I don't think, look, if he had this left shoulder injury and had been playing great prior to it, then we'd go, well, it's not really fair to judge this messed up body. But like he's got a big body of work now. He's not the guy. Yeah, well, I do feel bad for him because he's hurt, and it does have to do with it's not mere ego, but I guess what you're kind of getting at, the best thing for the Browns would be for him to self-submit to getting Wally pipped, but that will ruin his career because if he sits down and lets Case Keenum, I think he probably knows, given the way I feel right now, Keenum is a better option. But if I volunteer that to Stefanski, I'm doomed because if they go on a run without me, who wants me next year? Derek Carr, conversely, I could see him going to New Orleans and lighting it up in 2022. Sure. I think that would be I think if you put him in a good spot, he'll thrive. I'm with you completely. But the thing with Baker Mayfield is I don't think there's been a guy this deep, and he's, year 4 for him, who is as big a pitch man. Oh, my God. He's in every other commercial. What if he got shelved? Like, it's like, oh, yeah, well, no, but now he's a backup. I don't think there'd be, because there have been, Ryan Leaf or Jamarcus Russell or anyone else who never take off in the first place. It's like, too bad he's a bust. But people built up, major corporations have funded millions of dollars around Baker Mayfield being their pitch man. So kind of a weird spot. Like, yeah, he's
he's not good, guys. You're going to have to figure out who's going to.
No,
Case Keenum can do the Home Depot ads next year for you.
I mean, obviously the agent deserves a lot of credit, but like if you put his endorsement ledger side by side with his football card, you'd be like, well, this makes no sense.
Biggest ever?
I mean, not Peyton Manning level yet, but like
disparity. Disparity
absolutely
between
the biggest ever. Absolutely.
Spaghetti, you're like a young fella. Maybe you can help us out. Who's had a bigger disparity between actual sports greatness and endorsement dollars? Is there somebody we're not thinking about? I mean, the Worm. No, he never got any because he was too much of a lightning.
RG3 was in Subway commercials for a while.
Yeah, that's all.
But this would be like if Tony Eason was the most visible pitchman in the 80s. Like what? Like there's nothing on that football card that suggests that Baker Mayfield should be in 17 commercials in every game.
Imagine in 30 years from now when people look back like, wait, who made the most money doing endorsements in 2021? Like, who's Baker Mayfield? Who is that guy? I've never heard of that guy. All right, let's get to some college picks here, and then we'll get into some NFL Week 12 picks for you. Just a couple for you. Hench, or we unless you have no offering on what I deemed earlier with Cousin Sal and Marty Weiss, the most meaningful on a human level in college football, the best rivalry is Army-Navy, because that's the only rivalry for all the rhetoric that you hear from, big time rivals. Is like, doesn't matter what the schedule is, as long as we win that one, it's a great season. Like, well, that's not really true though, but that wouldn't be true for you, Auburn. If you go 1-12, even if you beat Alabama, the coach is getting fired. Army-Navy, like that means something to those guys and the entire branch of the military. The most meaningful in football terms, impact on national championships and otherwise, has to be Ohio State, Michigan in our lives, right?
For sure.
For sure.
I mean, it's when you look at how many times and you've got, again, going back, the Bianca Patuca game stands out, right? Because Michigan played pure spoiler in that game in terms of national championship potential. I feel like there was a 15-year stretch where you could just go, oh, you know who's going to win the Ohio State-Michigan game? The team that only has beating the other team to play for. The team that has a national championship to play for is doomed in this game, which I think is not going to be the case this year. I think I just think it's an oversimplification to say, well, how did they both play Michigan State? But I think that is a good yardstick of the talent gap. And, Ohio State seems to have timed this thing exactly right. And Oregon timed it exactly wrong. Peaking at Ohio State in whatever that was, week 2 or 3. And Ohio State is just churning it all together at the precise right time. And it's funny that the Harbaughs are brothers, because I like John Harbaugh a lot. And I'm just couldn't be more delighted than when Jim Harbaugh's unhappy. So I do think that Ohio State covers that number this weekend.
I'm with you. Spaghetti, why don't you do it? I for exactly the reasons you said, just straight up talent and the pox on them, the weight of Harbaugh, his entire can't beat Ohio State. That's extra gravity. That's not supposed to win, but man, that's an extra piece that probably favors Ohio State, not Michigan, because it's gotten a little sad at this point that Harbaugh can't do it, and that's going to be batting around in his head pregame and even during the game. If things get tight for him, he'll probably get tight. Spaghetti, how say you on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm shocked this number isn't more. I think even Marty Weiss said it on extra points, and he is a Michigan fan. I think the worst thing that happened to Michigan was seeing that Michigan State-Ohio State game. If that game looked different, I think they'd feel a little bit better about this game. But when has Michigan ever really won a massive game before where, like, they haven't done it? So why now with this Ohio State team who is peaking now? Earlier in the year, they weren't great. There was questions about how good is C.J. Stroud, how good is their defense. Well, defense still isn't awesome, but they're scoring points points at will, and they're going to get steamrolled, I think, by Ohio State. I know I did say a few weeks back that I thought Michigan could get up for this game and win this one, but Ohio State's just looked too good the last few weeks, so they're a scary team.
Hey, you'll hear more from Eddie Spaghetti, by the way, with Mikey Meatballs in just a little bit. If you're a Puck fan, stick around for an update on all things NHL. Spaghetti and Meatballs coming up in just a second here. Let me throw in one other college football bet. It is a good rivalry weekend if you enjoy such things. This is a great Saturday to sit in front of the TV. I'll throw Pitt in there. Pitt-Syracuse is not a great rivalry. I'm going to go against the collective wisdom that I feel coming out of this game. Syracuse in the Carrier Dome needs to win the game to become bowl eligible. Pitt could, more or less put their feet up because they're into the ACC championship. They've won the Coastal in the ACC now. That does set up that Cuse is going to be hungry. Don't forget, though, that Narduzzi knows it and Pickett knows it. And Narduzzi is, I'm guessing, is smart enough to know that Pickett going to New York as a Heisman finalist helps the program as much as it helps the kids, draft stock and otherwise. I think that they're incented as a team for Pickett to go up there and light it up. I think he has a big game. I say Pitt take the 13.5 or lay the 13.5 that Pitt is given to the Cuse up there. That's a little bonus one for you. Now, let's start with Thanksgiving Day, Hench, and pick these three bum games. Well, Bears, Lions. My mother, by the way, my mother used to always say at Thanksgiving, she'd say, I feel so bad for these families, for these guys that have to play and all these people have to work on Thanksgiving and they don't get to be with their families and everything. And like that, don't feel bad for the ones making millions, but there are other people. I really do want, does Fox just go like, we don't need to send camera crews and everything up there. Just somebody tweet what happened at the end. That'll be enough. Who cares about Bears, Lions? Anywho, what's your pick?
It is adorable that there are people out there that think we'd rather be with our families than watching football by ourselves in the basement. Like, it's so insane. Like, are you fucking kidding me? These guys are delighted. Honey, sorry. Oh, shit. Playing on Thanksgiving. So, what a bummer. I got to hang out with my buddies playing a sport instead of sitting around making small talk with you jackasses. Oh, what a shame. Yeah, they're the big winners. But no, happy Thanksgiving.
But the Hench, this is Tim Boyle v. Andy. Andy v. Timmy. This is as great a test as I can recall.
I went to high school.
Just how much you don't want to have a conversation with your family and just instead look at the screen and make vapid comments about what's happening.
I went to high school with a kid named Tim Boyle. And when I saw that guy's stats at halftime, I go, wait a minute, that might be my classmate in his 50s. I got to check. I got to double check. All right. Well, I'm going to get my best bet, which is the last of those three games. I think the Bills get right. I don't think the wheels have fallen off that team completely. As opposed to the Saints, who, they had just enough offense. Even if your defense is good and flies to the ball, you need first downs on the other side. Like, you can't do everything on defense. And if you've watched the last months of Saints games, like the way, the defense beat Brady, but then couldn't quite beat the Titans, then kind of got trampled by Hurts and company. Like, I think the Saints are regressing to where they really are, which is a non-playoff team. I think they're not going to make the playoffs in the NFC. And the Bills are going to be there, toward the end. So I think 4 is a tiny number for the disparity between the talent level on those two teams. So I think the Bills is my best bet. And then
I like that one. I really do. I like that immensely. The Bills now have to get right. And talking about no one cares about your problems, we have just completely glossed over the fact that they didn't have Kamara and Trevor Siemian is their quarterback. Yeah, they say, like, what's up with the Saints? Michael Thomas hasn't been out there for the entire season, even though we thought he was going to be. Kamara hasn't been playing. And Siemian, this is what happens when you get too many injuries. I'm sorry. It's unsatisfying that, I'm a big, hey, everybody has injuries, but you can reach a point where the attrition gets to be too great to overcome.
Every team in the NFL, if they had to start the scout team, would get crushed. That's what happens when you have to start the scout team in the actual game. So the Bills, I think, will trample them. On the other two games, I've picked the Lions so many times this year. It's hilarious. But I do I feel like if you're going to get more than a half a game off the schneid and get an actual win, here's your chance, guys. This is the one. And DeAndre Swift has been running the hell out of the ball. So I'm going to take the Lions. They're getting a field goal, right? And then 3.5. Okay, I'll take the 3.5. And then the Cowboys are in. I did say that the wheels would fall off the Raider wagon completely, and I stand by that. And maybe the Cowboys, crushed by the Broncos, demolished the Falcons, struggle against the Chiefs. And again, short week. I don't know who they'll have, but that's still in the Raiders' miserable season. That seems like a tough short week. Go into Dallas, beat an angry Dallas team, a hungry Dak Prescott. So I would lay the 7 in that game, a little less enthusiastically than laying the 4 with the Bills. And then the other two I just throw out there. You tapped on it earlier, but I think both road teams. I think I take the Steelers and the points and the Browns and the points in those two games in the AFC North.
I'm sticking with, by the way, you and me are on the same page. I'm going to take the Lions. Hard to be confident about that, but this is as good a spot as they're going to get to get the embarrassment out of the loss column or out of the win column and put a strike in it. I could see the Cowboys game being close just merely because I think practical matchups. If Tyron Smith isn't out there, then, that pass rush really could get after Dak. But come on already, Cowboys. This is, that was a woeful performance. I don't buy the Chiefs. We get a week away from them, though, for their mystique to build up. But I'm sticking with the Chargers to win that division. I think this is a big spot for them because the Broncos are playing for something right now. They're going in to Denver. This is it now. The Chargers looked real good against, as you say, the Steelers, mostly practice squad. By the way, shout out to 97 Cam Hayward. That was an all-time performance and a loss. It's an all-time season out of him. Give him his gold jacket already. Chargers.
Are you saying Albert Hainsworth wouldn't have tracked down Justin Herbert 50 yards downfield to save a touchdown? that play, I mean, and I don't know what your replay situation is in the stadium there, but they did on the broadcast, they did a ISO on Hayward for the entire play. Yeah. And I'm telling you, 3% of defensive linemen would have turned and run upfield. Like, the play was so far beyond him when he decided to put his head down and just chug. And he did it. He pulled it off. He's slower than the guy, but he caught him. It was an incredible play. And then a bogus.
I don't know. They almost blew it. And I know the takeaway for the nation is, boy, I think the Chargers should feel good because that's typically a game that they would have given away. And they did their best to give it away, obviously.
They did give it away. The Steelers gave it back.
I know, but I'm seduced by the roster. I know they don't stuff the run, and that's a big problem in December and January. But when you look at the pieces, you really just think offensive line's good. I mean, they can run the ball. They have they have 3 or 4 really good pass catchers. The playmakers on defense is what it's all about. Asante Samuel and Derwin James and Kenneth Murray. They're just loaded everywhere to me. And so they had their stumble here, but I maybe this one, they come off of the big stage, almost blowing it. And now they'll get right. I just don't. I mean, the Chiefs, I know everybody's going to talk about them, but especially with a week away, people are going to say, beware the Chiefs. I just don't think that because they've been great for the last 3 years that even though they've put a nice little stretch together here, they're still, I mean, would they get 19 points?
Well,
it's
interesting. And maybe they're being judicious about it, but when you watch the Chargers, you're like, why doesn't Eckler touch the ball every other play? Like every single time he gets the ball in space, like it's insane on a swing pass. how quickly he's up to speed and making guys miss. Like, it's just a dump off, and you're like, you're going to average 12 yards per dump off with this guy. He's a missile, and obviously, and a load too. Somehow, when he starts turning those legs inside the 5, the pile just goes with him into the end zone. Yeah, I think that the Chargers on that side of the ball, I think, are the best. And Herbert, like, they had a couple of massive drops in that game, but he's just putting lasers on the numbers.
The thing that stands out to me, Lamar Jackson with design runs, and he's a headache, in the pocket. Even when you get pass rushers around him, how he can burn you, but it's got to break your spirit as a player. It's not a designed run or even what you see with Mahomes sometimes when the defense just kind of turns its back on him on 3rd and 9 and he just takes off and makes it look easy. And you're like, oh, what the hell? Herbert's different than that. He can do that to you too. But there were some plays on Sunday night where there are little seams between defenders where he just kind of knifes through them and takes off. It's not just he's not just functionally scrambling. He's choosing to run and burning teams. And if he keeps doing that on top of the other stuff that they have going on offense, I think they can outshoot a lot of teams and get enough turnovers because of the high-end players I named. I bottom line, I stand by them as my Super Bowl team. I know this sounds crazy after how bad the Bengals were for a fortnight. They're scary too. I think they really went in. What Joe Mixon did was intimidating, I think, to the Raiders. And let's see how Pittsburgh rebounds. Their backs are fully to the wall at this point. At Cincy, then Baltimore. Win both of those, right as rain. Win one of those, still pretty good.
Well, what's this? TJ
big spot in the
is
Queen
TJ
City.
Watt gonna play against the Bengals?
Don't know. At the time of this recording, Kevin Hench, I don't know the availability of Hayden or Minka Fitzpatrick or any number of others.
It's the difference between the other quarterback having time to throw or not having time to throw. Like he's an unblockable.
It's all predicated on that.
So yeah, Justin Herbert's going to sit there and pick you apart. And by the way, even on those scrambles, many of which were to the left, Watt comes around the corner and tracks you down.
Of course, that's true. Of course, that's true. It's not mere pieces. As I say, the Jenga theory is if you take the wrong piece out, the whole thing implodes. TJ Watt is a guy that you wouldn't run through the left side of the line, patting the ball for 4 seconds and decide I'm taking off with it here if TJ Watt is there because he's already wrapped you up. And to your point, even if he does take off, TJ Watt is as fast as you are and he'll chase you down and you're not going to make 25 yards on the carry. Anyway, I want to let Spaghetti make one pick here.
I want to make you guys. Speaking of picks, I want to do a quick trivia lightning round for both.
Okay, well, you know what? Let's do it then. Okay, Spaghetti will get.
I'm looking for a number. Okay. Spaghetti, unmute so you can just blurt out a number. Okay. In this 5-game winning streak, how many interceptions do the Patriots have?
3. Oh, have they picked off?
Mm.
Oh, man. Jeez Louise, that's a tough number. I'll say 14.
I'm going to go opposite. I'm going to go 1.
It's 12.
12. All right.
First of all, you're asking for a reason. You watch Sports Center, don't you? You saw J.C. Jackson run into the house. Like, you've seen half of these on Sports Center. Anyway, 12 picks in 5 games. And they are ball hawks. And they're not dropping picks. When they get their hands on the ball, it is a turnover. And that part of the game where you can do that, bend, keep the play in front of you, make them make as many throws as possible. And if any of them wobble off the mark, take it away.
Hench, it took me a minute, to be honest, to figure it out because the Patriots of the early aughts were defense dominant with Willie McGinnis and Richard Seymour and Brewski and the rest. And then the defense started to slip, and I started to say, well, it's Brady, obviously. Belichick is borderline fraudulent. He's a defensive-minded guy, but the defenses aren't good. Why do they keep winning Super Bowls? I guess it's because of Brady. And I realized somewhere around 05, 07, somewhere in that range, Belichick figured it out as usual ahead of most people, which is, in the 21st century, you don't shut anybody down. The rules favor the QB and the offense too much, but you do have to create turnovers. And that's what, when the Patriots, even when they were 31st in the league in defense, they were still turning you over. And that's what the Patriots do. And I got to tell you, I'm going to throw up on you and anyone and spaghetti. If we get Brady and Belichick in the Super Bowl, that's it. I mean, I don't know. I'm really going to be just.
You'll be the only person in the world not to watch.
I'll watch it out of
7 billion viewers.
Sick. I'll be sick watching it, though. I can't wait to see what happens in this game, though. By the way, before we give our pick on that, one other quick trivia for you, Kevin Hench. The Falcons had 3 quarterbacks throw an interception in that game against the Falcons. The last team, the 2000 Chargers, had 3 quarterbacks in one game throw an interception. Name them.
Breeze?
No.
Rivers?
No. Rivers? No, he was barely an NC
All right.
State.
Well, I think I could be wrong on both those guys.
I'll tell you, what's surprising is it's Ryan Leaf is one. I just can't believe he made it to 4 years in San Diego. It seemed like he was
he was drafted. They came out in 98.
Oh, I'm thinking 97. Okay, so 98. Okay, so he's
Leaf,
still there. It's still
John Freeze.
That's a great guess. But no, Moses Moreno.
Never would have got that.
And then here's the one that struck me. Jim Harbaugh.
Oh. Okay.
There you go. That's fun.
Anyway, I got another question. I got another one. Here we go. This is great. Spaghetti's getting the history of football here. Okay. So as the Patriots were demolishing the Falcons, and you at a certain point, you're like, you got to get Matt Ryan off the field. Like, this is not.
By the way, that's another guy who could be in play. Why doesn't you want a fun narrative? Leave Atlanta and go to the arch rival New Orleans Saints next year. That's a fun story.
They mentioned,
or send them to Seattle. That'd be fun.
During that shit kicking, they mentioned that, Matt Ryan's QB rating during that fateful Super Bowl against the Patriots was 144.1, which is very hard to lose a football game when your QB rating is 144. But it reminded me that Big Ben's was 22.6 against the Seahawks. So that's got to be the highest quarterback rating for a losing quarterback and the lowest quarterback rating for a winning quarterback.
It's probably true. But footnote to that, as every cynic in the world loves to throw that one at me, the Steelers don't get anywhere close to that Super Bowl without second-year QB Ben Roethlisberger lighting up the Colts in the first half, the mighty Colts in Indy, and then going into Denver and doing the same to the Broncos. So that's it. I don't need everybody telling me.
He
was lucky. He was on a good team.
Look,
he took
your boy saw a Hall of Famer. I got no problem with that. Hall of Famer. He just happened to play the worst game of his life in the Super Bowl, and they won anyway. So there you go.
Okay.
All right.
True. I'm not going to get big. You're not going to get me hot under the collar. I'm already sick about the gathering storm of Belichick and Brady in the Super Bowl. Oh, my God.
Dreamy. No, wait. How about this? Belichick wins this year. Then they play again next year for to settle it.
No, thank you. I'll be on to soccer or something like that by then. Tennessee Titans, New England Patriots. Patriots giving 5.5. How say you, Hench?
I would lay the wood there. I think the Patriots, Titans kind of one-dimensional now, and the Patriots, the Jonnu Smith Bowl, guy does nothing, by the way. I don't think teams are scoring against the Patriots much the rest of the way.
Boy, he really fixed them up, but good, didn't he? We talked about it way back in the March or whatever when free agency started, and there were some people saying, "What's he doing? What's Belichick doing?" Doing setting himself up to do exactly what that team is. And the gift from the football gods and this weird conversation, the rhetorical kind of thing that people do with like, Mac Jones is light years ahead of where anybody thought he could be at this point. Like, not really. People, when he got drafted, people were like, unbelievable that Mac Jones fell to Belichick. You know how this is going to go. And
well, I mean, you have to assume that the Shanahan and a team that really actually seems like they've righted the ship. The Niners look good. But, you know, if we're to believe that he was really torn between the guy with the unknowable ceiling in Trey Lance, who knows? If he was struggling, it's because he knew how ready Mac Jones was. He wasn't thinking about Mac Jones' ceiling. I think we're seeing it. It's the same. He's the same guy, like not, you know, winning games, not making mistakes. So, but I do think Kyle Shanahan might be kicking himself now.
I don't know if he is, but I'm going to kick myself and I'm going to kick you and I'm going to throw shoes at any Boston sports fan if Mac Jones becomes the first rookie quarterback ever to go to a Super Bowl. Oh, my God, no. Don't let this happen. Not against Brady on top of it.
Brady's not going to the Super Bowl. More likely to have the first part of your nightmare happen than the other.
You really? That's what, yeah. Really?
I like Eddie Spaghetti's, you know, I mean, obviously with the points, but I like that. I like the Giants plus the big number tonight.
Oh, well, we'll look for that. We'll look for your tales from New York City, all things Thanksgiving. Have a great time while you're there, Kevin Hench. We'll look forward to kibitzing with you. After week 12, best to the girls under your hotel roof there, and we'll kibitz.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
All right, there he goes. The great Kevin Hench, everybody. Eddie Spaghetti, that's a hot take that he walked out the door with, right? That he thinks that the Bucs are less likely to go to the Super Bowl than the Patriots? Well, agree?
It is a strange year. I mean, I just saw a stat that the underdogs and the end through week 11, it's the second highest win rate for them in 2 decades. So this, you know, people were complaining about the NFL, the bad teams beating the good teams, but I thought it would, you know, water would find its level, but it seems like that is a true thing, that these teams that are, you know, we're not holding in high regard are beating the better teams. We'll see. I mean, it is, you know, it's an extra game now this year. I mean, if the Bucs go and destroy my Giants later on, you know, tonight, then it's, you know, they're going back on track. I think the Chiefs are slowly getting back on track. I think the eventual good teams will be there at the end. So I think there's still a pretty likely chance that the Bucs will be in the Super Bowl.
All right. Well, listen, Spaghetti and his pal Mikey Meatballs are going to chop up. Mikey Meatballs going to see the brand new joint up in Long Island later in this week. Hope that's a fun time for him. But I also hope that 87 and company starting to heat up themselves. Sidney Crosby and company can maybe survive an exciting one. Kind of like I saw, but in Los Angeles with the Chargers, it didn't work out exactly. Or hopefully 87 can, you know, maybe a 9-8 kind of game, something like that. Everybody goes home happy. Crosby scores 6 goals, something like that. All right, he's coming at you, Spaghetti and Meatballs, in just a second. But first, a quick break. Hey, Spaghetti, before you get going here with Meatballs, and you'll give all your bets there. I felt bad. Hench was sitting in New York, so I didn't get, I didn't honor your best bets. I apologize for that, but we'll get yours in with Mikey Meatballs in just a second. But let's get you warmed up here a little bit with some Thanksgiving Day games here, and let's focus on the twilight here. This is a good way on Thanksgiving that FanDuel is celebrating you, and they're giving all customers up to $100 bonus on same-game parlays. Feast on the NFL all weekend long and turn little bets into big paydays with same-game parlays. We love these. 3 legs. You could pick who you think is going to win the game, over under passing yards for one of the QBs. Let's talk about that one going on down in NOLA with the Bills coming to town. I think that for fun's sake, right out of the gate, it's nice and festive to bet the over. So let's start there. Over 46.5. I think Dawson Knox started to get some targets. He's back from the broken hand. Let's say he gets into the end zone. And let's say that the Bills win this one, lay in the 4. There's your same game parlay. Eddie Spaghetti, you like that or no?
Yeah, I'm for that. I definitely like the over in this game. I do like the Bills get right game here, laying the 4, and your touchdown picks. Those are good ones too. So I think I'm hoping for a good game on Thanksgiving because I think the other ones might be stinkers.
Yeah, well, the Raiders and Cowboys will at least look nice in terms of uniforms. And FanDuel, of course, will make sure the important thing is you use the promo code -3, the word minus the number 3, and go to FanDuel.com to use it. FanDuel.com/-3 is how you do it. And I agree, Spaghetti. And give me one more just for fun. And you get this one on FanDuel as well. In case you don't get to it, we don't know at the time of this recording how the Giants fared against Tampa. Now they host the Eagles. Jalen Hurts really coming on there. Giants at this point +3.5. Kind of like this spot for the Giants. I'll say you.
I do too. If Andrew Thomas is back healthy, apparently Saquon's back and healthier. He hasn't played in about a month's time. So I mean, if they have more weapons, I mean Jones, he hasn't been the problem. So I kind of like them in this spot. I'm not fully sold on Jalen Hurts yet. I think he's a better fantasy quarterback than an NFL quarterback, if that makes sense.
I do, and it's funny. It's well said. But I'm waiting for them to slip up here, and maybe I'm being a little bit too cynical about it. The other one, very quickly, we don't know exactly, so injuries could impact this depending on Monday Night Football result and otherwise. But as it stands, Colts red hot. I like the Buccaneers going in there. It's time for Brady and company to turn the corner. I think they, will survive the Giants, and I think they'll go into Indy and kind of break that streak that Jonathan Taylor and company have going there. Bucks -3. Agree with that, Spaghetti?
I like the Bucks in that one too. I mean, I'm not going to shy away from my pick. I did say they're going to make the Super Bowl, and I think the Colts are a good story. But I think I know Jonathan Taylor's been great too. But when you put Brady versus Carson Wentz, I'm sorry, but it's lopsided. I'm going to side with TB12 over Carson Wentz there.
Oh, my God. What great games we have on Sunday. Maybe not on Thanksgiving. Vikes at Niners, Rams at Packers, Browns at Ravens. Browns really desperately need that one. The Steelers desperately need the Browns to beat the Ravens as well, and the Bengals will be probably rooting for that themselves. Much football to go. Bet it all. FanDuel.com/-3 is how you do it. Make sure you're playing in the arcade, extrapoints.com, against Cousin Sal, Eddie Spaghetti, Jen Piacente, the rest of the crew here. And now, let's set aside the football. It's time to drop the puck with spaghetti and meatballs.
All right, we are back after a brief hiatus. I know everyone was tweeting like, "Where the hell is Spaghetti and Meatballs?" We need some NHL talk here, but busy week, folks. We got Thanksgiving coming up, so we're cramming it in there. I am Eddie Spaghetti, obviously, with Mikey Meatballs, who's back home in the land of the New York Islanders, not too far from their new arena in Elmont, New York, the UBS Arena, which we'll get to shortly. How is it, Meatballs, being back home in a freezing cold New York? I'm just asking because you're wearing like 3 sweaters.
No, I got a short sleeve shirt on under this. It's feels good. Too much nice weather can make you soft, so you need to submit yourself to the cold atmosphere once in a while.
It is going to be like 80 degrees here in Los Angeles on Thanksgiving. I do not travel back home for this holiday. I just skipped this one. But enough of Thanksgiving talk. We have plenty of that on the Extra Points Network. Let's talk about some puck. And you're going to the game soon. I just was at my first hockey game in quite some time, Kings Canes, and I was excited because the Kings have been surging lately. They've been playing a lot better, even with the Drew Doughty injury. And the Canes are a team that we kind of talked about a little bit in the preview shows and other pods here that we liked a lot. They're a really good, complete team. I was really happy to see them play, and they did win this game 5-4. Really high-scoring game there, and it was funny. I had another buddy at the game that I was texting with, and the Kings gave like a C. The Canes gave like a C effort, and the Kings gave like an A effort, and the Canes still won that game. So it just shows you how good of a team they are. Are you still pretty high on the Canes going forward?
Yeah, I just think, I don't know. I still think like Florida is a better team than
Sure.
Carolina, or I just think eventually what's going to happen with them is that I think they're a little overrated because I think they have some good top end talent. Like Aho is obviously very good and stuff, but I think the rest of the guys are middle of the road.
I totally agree. I totally agree with that. But what I was going to say to counter that is that all the lines do bring offensive pressure. They do all four lines can pretty much score, and they are a pretty even team. There's no real deficiencies. That's what I'd say. And they're even the defense gets in on the attack too. A bunch of former Rangers on that team: Brady Shea, Tony DeAngelo, Derek Stepan, Jesper Fast. They all were contributing. So I do agree the high end talent may not be up there with some teams like Florida, but they do a good job of being able to score when necessary. And reverse to the Kings team, pretty physical team. Anze Kopitar, obviously the center there. Do you buy into this recent surge with them, or do you think they're going to kind of fall flat in a tough West?
I think they'll be better than what was expected of them.
Yeah.
I think they'll keep afloat. I within the next few years, I think they'll be pretty solid. And same with the Ducks are very good too, but I think you're starting to see San Jose is falling off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Kings will be okay. I think they'll survive.
Yeah, it's pretty weird too to see a Kings team with Jonathan Quick not as like their primary goaltender anymore. That's an end of an era there. Kind of reminds me of the Rangers there with Henrik Lundqvist, obviously. But yeah, pat myself in the back for picking the Ducks team. But the Kings team is surprising. They are a physical team. But anyway, enough of the West talk. Like I mentioned, you're going to the Islanders game and the new arena, so I want to hear about the new arena, but also a bunch of injuries on the Islanders front, right?
Yes, it's very bad right now. I honestly think if they weren't going to be opening if they didn't open an arena the past weekend, the games probably would have been postponed or canceled. You have Lee out, Josh Bailey's out, which may not have been a bad thing. I know a lot of Islander fans are not too happy with Josh Bailey, but Lee being out was bad. Pelech being out is bad. Pulak is hurt. That's not related to COVID, but Andy Green was out. Beauvillier missed a game. Now Bellows is now tested positive. So, if they weren't opening the stadium, I think these games probably would have been postponed. It hasn't been easy for them. A lot of late call-ups. Guys like Robin Salo, Grant Hutton. I thought they actually played very well in their debuts. Richard Panik played very well in his debut. Results were not what you wanted for the first two games, but there's only so much you can do at this point. I think Islander fans still shouldn't worry too much yet. I think they have a 8, 9, 10 game winning streak in them, or a 12 game point streak at some point, which they will hit. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later. But yeah, so we'll see what happens. I think they really just can't get a bounce either right now. There's no luck. Parisi can't seem to finish. There are a lot of guys like Palmieri just seems like he can't put one in. Peugeot is not really shooting the puck. So once they find a rhythm, they'll figure it out. It's very similar to their losing streak pre-COVID 2 years ago when they just seemed like they could not do anything right. And it's kind of the same thing right now. But once they get out of it, they'll be all right.
So what's your panic level on a 1 to 10? Are you panicked at all? I know you're famous for saying that don't worry about early season hockey. Things will sort themselves out, similar to like what's going on with Colorado Avalanche, which we'll get to momentarily. But are you afraid? Is it or of the roster not being able to score? You think, man, this Dave was making fun of the Isles last year all throughout the playoff run too, saying like this team has no high end talent. Do you think it's a case of that finally happening, or is it just a case of, like you said, a bunch of injuries and plus the huge road stretch to start the season?
I just think it's some of it's like luck, where they just literally cannot get a bounce, where the pucks just will not go in the net. There's no open rebounds that they can find and put in the back of the net. It just eventually it's going to turn around because law of averages, it will eventually even out with these scoring chances. So I think they'll be all right. Panic wise, maybe a 3.5, 4.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even a little lower. I'm not, like I said, as long as they'll go on their winning streak eventually, and they just got to make the playoffs. I mean, what team's going to want to play the Islanders in the playoffs? So I'm not, like I said, I'm not too worried. If this stretches into January, yeah, then I guess it's time to panic. But I don't think it will.
Well, right now, I think a lot of teams like to play the Isles. 12 points, 15 games played. I did mention, before we get over to the Colorado Avalanche stuff, but the Rangers, my Rangers, are playing your Isles on Wednesday now at the UBS Arena. And you said off air, you heard a lot of good things about this arena, and I have read good things too. So I'm jealous of you getting to go there. But so you can give me your thoughts on or what you heard about the arena. But how do you feel about this Rangers versus Islanders game with you guys being home? And I feel like also we should probably do another. You last year won the season series. Mm-hmm. Either we should do a double or nothing, or we should start a new bet. I'm down to do whatever you have in mind.
What are you thinking? What do you want to do?
I don't know. We can get wild with it. I mean, maybe we should get like Sal and everyone else involved and see what they think, Dave. But I'm down because I mean, obviously last year you guys were supposed to be the better team. This year you were supposed to be the better team too, going into the odds. But right now, I mean, you know, the hat I'm wearing, the New York Rangers, the blue shirts, they're surging right now. I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, well, there will be no better way to get your first win than against the New York Rangers in the UBS Arena on Wednesday. Wow, so you're already calling a win? No, not calling a win. But okay. I don't know the status. I just think it would be. I don't know the status of some of the players, but I would think they would all enjoy it very much if they beat the Rangers as the first win. Hopefully in a blowout. Yeah, on Wednesday. Easier said than done. But yes, of course. But yeah, in terms of the stadium, I think they did a great job of listening to what the fans want. There's a lot of fan themed or fan owned businesses within the arena, which is really cool. I've heard the bathroom situation is better than it was at Nassau Coliseum, where that's good. You won't miss a puck drop at any point. So yeah, I'm looking forward to going to the game, and hopefully they beat up on Dave's Penguins on Friday. Oh, that's the matchup as well. That's gonna be a good one. Yeah, well, I would love to get back home and check out the new place. I have heard good things too. And we were talking about teams that were starting off slow and then eventually getting hot. And our pal Shane tweeted us to talk about the Avalanche for a bit. And this is a team that we've said before in here. We did not really talk a lot about in the preview in terms of betting because everything with them was chalk. I think actually one of the bets I gave out was Kel McCarr to win the Norris. I felt like it was his time. Obviously, he finished second last year to Adam Fox in that race. Has your opinion changed at all on the Avalanche? I mean, right now they're still out of a playoff spot, 17 points at the time of this recording. I said that they're going to be fine. They're going to figure it out. They're just too good of a team, too talented, too deep, that as the season goes on, it's kind of like you were saying too, like the Kings had a surge. They'll probably fall off. The Sharks will eventually fall off. The Ducks are now dealing with some injuries too. They had a nice start, but they'll probably fall off. And I think you're going to have some mainstays in the West. Like we said, the Oilers, the Flames look like they're legit. A few other teams there, but I still feel like at the end of the day, we'll see the Avalanche somewhere in the Western Conference playoffs. Yeah, I think it's going to be tough for them to miss the playoffs. Mm-hmm. The leaders, the leadership they have, I think those guys will want to be in there considering how close they've gotten previous years. One guy I want to shout out for the Avalanche is Devon Toews playing. I think he makes a real big difference for them there. He's finally back. He's playing well, former Islander. Great offensively, great defensively, and he fits really well with McCarr there. So it's rooting for him. So I guess West Coast, I'm all right with whatever the Avalanche do. Yeah, I mean, they're at the time of this recording, they have a game later today versus Ottawa at home. They should be able to win that game. Ottawa's not very good. Wednesday, they have a game with Anaheim coming to town, too. Like I just said, they're dealing with some injuries as well. So, I mean, I still like the Avalanche at home. They should be able to right the ship. And it'd be nice to get 2 more wins before Thanksgiving here. But in terms of game picks, we're talking about this off air of which games I liked, and one of them you went the other way on me. And I thought it was pretty shocking in the game tomorrow. Calgary hosting the Blackhawks, and I was like, well, I love Calgary this year. I think Calgary's going to win that one versus a not very good Blackhawks team. And you said you liked Chicago in this matchup. Please share why. Yeah, I think Fleury's playing really well right now. You had bad Fleury at the beginning of the year. Now you have good Fleury at this, the early stretch. And Calgary's better on the road than they are at home. So at plus 180, I think I'll take my bet on Fleury there. And hopefully the trend continues where Calgary is a better road team. Wow. Interesting. I mean, We'll see if you're right, but I mean, I thought that would be a lock for Calgary at home, the better team. But I mean, look, hey, listen to Meatball. That's his bet. Another bet I like Wednesday. We have Edmonton Oilers on the road versus Arizona. Arizona obviously not that good. Last year we were always picking on the Sabres. That was the easy team. This year I think there's a few teams you could do that with. You could do it most of the time with the Blackhawks. You could do it with Arizona. You could do it maybe with Ottawa. We'll see other teams how they go out the next few weeks before the new year. We could keep betting against them, but this Oilers team, they just score too much. I think them on the road, they'll put up a high number. If you want to even go with the over, I like the over on that one too. Like, you just can't stop Draisaitl, you can't stop McDavid, and I like the Oilers probably giving a goal and a half in that game to cover that and win that game on Wednesday. So I mean, that's a lock, right? Meatballs. There's no way they're going to lose this one.
I think so. I like that one.
Well, hopefully we're steering our fans in the right direction here. Next time you'll hear us, we'll get the full review of UBS Arena for Meatballs, and he'll have to kiss the ring as the Rangers beat up on the Isles. But I am hoping for your sake the Isles do beat the Penguins so that we could poke fun at Dave too. But thanks again to those who tweeted us and listeners, and we'll see you post-Thanksgiving for another edition of Spaghetti and Meatballs.
There you have it. Well done, Spaghetti. Well done, Mikey Meatballs. Have a great time at the new crib up there in Long Island. Eddie Spaghetti, have a festive Thanksgiving holiday as well. And, time to be thankful. Let's be thankful for Cousin Sal putting this whole thing together a year and a half ago. You're not working if you're getting to work with your pals, and so we're in the winner circle on that front. Join us there, FanDuel.com/-3, the word minus, the number 3. We'll be back after the holiday to break it all down for you and try and see if it makes any more sense than it does right now. Until then, happy Thanksgiving, happy Shecker season, and it's been a thin slice of heaven.